All right, welcome everyone. We are now in April. I can't believe we're already in April. And for those of you who do watch some of my videos from time to time, we got a new pair of sunnies. So this is now going to be the white sunglasses nutritional session. All right, so today I am so excited for today. For about a year and a half working through the new physical education and wellness curriculum. One of the biggest pieces that many of us have been struggling with is this: how do we deliver the nutrition component in a way that is current, that is also efficient, and allows us to dial into the bigger pictures of nutrition? And how do we navigate the whole new world of languaging and to do no harm with the work we're doing, even though we have the best intentions? And so I am so thrilled and honored to be inviting Heather Osmond and Danielle Todd from Alberta Health Services. They're both nutritionists and dietitians who have been working on resources for a while now, and we finally connected, and they're going to be delivering our full first part of our session this month. Before we get fully started, there's, hold one moment. Oh, geez. See, Danielle, happens to me too.
Great.
I can't even find my land acknowledgement. Where are we here? Here we go. So this is just a short, brief land acknowledgement. I just want to run this and do a little bit of housekeeping, and then I'll turn it over to our guests.
We acknowledge that we are on traditional territory, gathering grounds, meeting place, and traveling route of the Treaty 6 First Nations, the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Dene, and Nakota Nations. Treaty 7 First Nations, the Blackfoot Confederacy of the Siksika, Kainai, Kainai Nations, Stoney Nakota Nation of the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney Nations, and the Tsuut'ina Nation. Treaty 8 First Nations of the Cree, Denetha, Daneza, and Denesule Nations, and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of the past whose footsteps have shaped this beautiful land, and those of the present and future who will continue to shape it for centuries to come. We are committed to restoring and honoring the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action, and we strongly believe that truth must be acknowledged to move toward reconciliation. Acknowledgement of the land is a critical part of demonstrating respect for First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. As the original peoples and the traditional stewards of the land in Alberta, and who continue to live here, and whose traditional knowledge, cultural practices, languages, oral traditions, and worldviews are tied to their relationship with the land. To acknowledge the traditional territory is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those whose land.
That's not so good. Anyway, we'll kind of move on from that. I really do love this new land acknowledgement that we have, because it does take that time to just kind of ground us back. A lot of us here are in the phys ed world, and you know, the land is really what we all go back to. So that being said, Danielle, I have unshared, so I'll turn it over to you and Heather, and I so look forward to kind of learning alongside of my colleagues.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Paul, and thanks for joining. So I'll just queue up our slideshow here. And so again, thanks for taking the time to be with us here this afternoon. And there we go. So Paul, I'll just get you to confirm that you're seeing my introductory slide.
You are good. It looks great.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, so thanks. So again, I'm Danielle Todd. I'm with Alberta Health Services, Population and Public Health Nutrition Services, and I'm joined by my colleague Heather. Heather is unfortunately just joining in the background today. She's feeling a little under the weather, so I will take the lead on sharing the slides, and then Heather will jump in as needed to help me out to answer questions and whatnot. But if you want to just say a quick hello, Heather, that'd be great.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm really excited and happy to be here. I just wish I felt a little better to participate, but yeah, happy to support wherever I can today and also moving forward.
Wonderful, thank you. So really what we wanted to go through today is just, again, a little bit about who we are as population public health dietitians, what sort of services we can offer, make sure everyone's familiar with that, share with you the kind of the span of the different resources that we have available for you, both in your work and school setting, but also for you individually as well. Just quickly touch base on that. We'll spend the bulk of our time talking about our very soon to be released kindergarten through grade 9 lesson plans, and just share with you how we approach developing them and kind of what Paul spoke to in terms of all the considerations we put into language and context and framing of those lesson plans. And then just spend the last few minutes together on, what you feel would be helpful to you and how you want to maybe stay connected with us. So just with that, I think just for time, I'll maybe just if those of you that are able and willing, if you don't mind, maybe just popping in the chat where in the province you work, so either your community or your school, whichever fits for you. Let us know what grades you teach. And then if you do have just a favorite food, memory, or tradition. So if you're open to popping that in the chat, and we'll kind of get to know each other a little bit that way. And I do recognize many of you likely know one another, but just for Heather and I, it'd be great to find out a little bit about who's in this virtual room with us. So I'll carry on as you pop that info in the chat if that's all right. Okay. So first off, I'm just going to share with you just a bit of a infographic on what a population public health dietitian is. And so I know sometimes when we're talking about the work we do, it's different than when people think of, oh, what does a registered dietitian do? And so really the type of work that Heather and I do is not so much about working with individual Albertans with medical conditions, but more so on a population level. So there's about the equivalent of about just under 37 of us across the province. And we work with schools, we work with rec centers, childcare centers, municipalities, and kind of with groups across the lifespan, from pregnancy to adults, older adults, newcomers, Indigenous peoples. And because I consider us kind of a small but mighty team. So again, we're spread out across the province, but we work with lots of different partners and stakeholders to help to do our work and deliver our messaging and whatnot. So we work with groups such as yourselves, your admin, your school district staff, and then in other settings, we work with other educators and staff, and really trying to, I guess, bring our expertise in, but then share practical resources to help you do your work related to food and nutrition and really development of healthy eating patterns among Albertans. So that's just a quick little snapshot of the type of work that population public health dietitians do. All right. So this next couple of minutes, I'm going to give just a really high level overview of different resources we have available, as I said, both kind of professionally and personally. And then after that, I will jump into really what I think we're all here for today is a bit more on our new upcoming lesson plans and some of that language and navigation for the health and wellness outcomes. But just to set the stage, I will share. So again, you should be seeing now a website, AHS Healthy Eating at School. So this is where anything that is nutrition services, any supports we have for the school context, this is where you'll find it. This is kind of the one-stop shop for that. We do, if any of you are involved or have colleagues involved in more food provision, menu planning, that type of thing. We have a whole section on healthy eating environment. That's not our focus for today, but just know that that's available. In just a few minutes, I'll be opening up this one on healthy relationship with food. That's been a big focus for us. So I'll share that in more detail in just a few minutes. Again, our healthy eating lessons, we have a few lesson plans available now, but in a few weeks, we will have a whole brand new set for kindergarten through grade 9 posted, which we'll talk about. And then I'll just give a little plug. If any of you have students or, again, personal professional life who are going into grade 10, 11, or 12 in the fall, we have a nutrition youth advisory panel where we have youth across the province come together once a month, meet with a small group of dietitians, and give us their input on our resources and our initiatives. So it's kind of a nice way for the youth to be involved. It's really helpful for us, and it's a nice opportunity for them as well. So that information should be coming out formally through your school district fairly soon as well, but you're more than welcome and appreciated to share that informally if you know folks with that. So that's just our broad website. So if you're kind of wondering where to find this nutrition pieces, that's where you would start. We also work with other public health teams in Alberta Health Services. Oops, sorry, I'll go back. So any of you that are familiar with, say, the teaching sexual health lesson plans or some of the mental health supports. I'm sorry, that didn't. I'll try it once more, and if not, well.
Heather, we actually can't see the websites, but if we type
Oh.
type in AHS and Healthier Together, we can see it on our site.
Oh,
too.
that's because I'm sharing my slide deck.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
you know what?
right.
So
yeah, but
Okay.
if people want to see it, just as I said, just type in AHS in the title, and it's popping up really nice.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Yeah. Okay. So, so Healthier Together Schools, again, that's kind of our partners within AHS who do work, like I said, on sexual health, mental health. So, and then they would link over to our specific nutrition resources. So, just so you know that those are available as well. They're another great resource for you. And then, yeah, sorry for the flaw in how I shared my screen here. So the other thing, the other place that would be helpful for you to go to would be AHS Nutrition Handouts. And again, that's one that you could search up, and we'll send a Wayfinder the links out on this. So this is where if you were probably more so for your own personal lives, navigating, wanting some nutrition information from, again, general meal planning to medical conditions, all of our publicly available education handouts are available there. You can search them, you can filter by topic. So it's a nice one-stop shop for that. And then lastly, again, across the province, both virtually and in person, we offer just a multitude of different workshops and classes, anything from for new parents feeding babies, mealtime struggles for school-age children, into, again, some more medical condition topics. So just really encourage you, if that's of interest to you or others in your network or your personal or professional community, to take a look at those. All right. Okay, so really what we're all here today, though, is to talk about our new food and nutrition and body image lesson plans. And so the one thing I'll start off by saying is that with this work on developing these lesson plans that go along with the Alberta education curriculum, is we were really fortunate to work in consultation with the University of Calgary, Workland School of Education, and specifically the Body Image Research Lab. And so we, as nutrition services, took a lead on the food and nutrition piece, and then the Body Image Lab took a lead on the body image lesson plans. So I'll give you some more detail on that, but just to know that we did have that consultation piece available. So what I'm going to walk through next is what we're calling our creative process and how we developed our lessons, which hopefully will give you just some of that nuggets that you were mentioning earlier, Paul, and then also let you know where to find these as they're available. So we started probably a bit over a year ago, thinking we've heard from teachers that they're looking for lesson plans to support the curriculum. So we wanted to support that need. So again, as I mentioned, working in consultation with the Body Image Lab. We also had a chance to get some input from teachers. We sent out a survey through our networks across the province of teachers that we were connected with, and asked what you wanted in lesson plans. From that, we then pulled together a focus group to drill down a little bit more as to what would be helpful, format and whatnot. And so really appreciated the teacher input there. And then from there, we developed what we called pilot lesson plans using that information. And this past fall, starting in September through mid-November, we had them available for teachers across the province to pilot. So if any of you happen to have been involved in our survey or our focus group or in piloting, if you wanted to just pop in the chat, it'd be great just to know if you did or didn't. And one of the things is that we know we need to kind of do a better job at making everyone aware, which is why we're so happy to be here with you today as well. So we had that process. As we were developing those pilot drafts, we used what we call a food literacy framework. So again, of course, everyone's familiar with literacy, and there's lots of different types of literacy, but with food literacy, it's really about sort of benchmarks of how do we develop the practical knowledge and the skills around food and nutrition to really be successful in developing healthy eating patterns. And so there's a really great researcher, Dr. Slater, out of University of Manitoba, who has a food literacy framework that we used in our work. We also looked at what is the emerging and new research on the best practice to do nutrition education for children and youth, and what really what works best that way. We also considered stages of cognitive development, which you would all be familiar with, and what does that look like in terms of our messaging and when we introduce different pieces in our lesson plans. Of course, we dug into the curriculum and made sure that all of our lesson plans do align with those curriculum outcomes. And then important to, I think, all of us is taking a health equity lens. So as an example there, you'll see, if we have any activities in our lesson plans around maybe students providing examples of food that they may use in a meal or snack, we're just really mindful of, what foods do those students have access to, and just being considerate of that, just as one example of that piece. We also use what we call a food and weight neutral lens, and I'll showcase this a little bit more again, but just to introduce that, what we mean by food neutral is that in all of our work, when we're delivering those messages to kids about food, we're talking about food in a very objective way. So this is a fruit or a vegetable or a grain or a protein food. We're not talking about a food being good or bad or junk, not assigning any sort of judgment to the food, but really providing that objective information, again, to help folks come to that development of the healthy eating pattern. Similar, we again specifically worked with the Body Image Research Lab on taking what we call a weight neutral lens. So really approaching food as food is what provides us with energy for growth and development and activity, nourishment and enjoyment, and really wanting to take talk of weight out of the classroom. So we're not talking about, developing an eating pattern based on changing weights and body shapes and sizes or bringing that into the conversation. It's about what nourishes our body to do what we need it to do for, again, our energy and our activity and our learning. So really reflecting that in our work. And then kind of wrapping this up all together, hopefully you'll see reflected in our lesson plans that we really want to focus on exploring food, the skill building piece around food, and practical knowledge. So what is going to help the students to, again, develop the skills so that as they become ultimately independent in making food choices and meal preparation, that they've got that, the skills and the knowledge to do that. So that's kind of a very quick overview of how we approached our lesson plan development work.
Heather, can I just,
With that,
Danielle,
yeah,
can I just
yeah.
pop into that for one moment?
Yeah, of course.
So the people who are on this call know that I'm a crazy pedagogy nerd, right? Like the way we come about things and the way we design things is really what makes the biggest difference. So I hope everyone on the call right now who is watching this is seeing the depth of the work that's been done here. And that's why for like the first time since I started this work, I was like, this hits every point. So I just wanted to reiterate just how important the depth of the planning and the research that's gone into these. Thanks, Danielle.
Great. No, thanks, Paul, for that point. And so again, I won't spend too much time on this, but again, we, as part of that process that I just described, we often refer to it we refer to it as an age-appropriate food and nutrition literacy guidance. So essentially, there's lots of different definitions of food and nutrition literacy, and I've got kind of a definition that resonates for us here. It's a broad concept that encompasses, again, the knowledge, skills, and behaviors that can help people develop healthy eating patterns. And so again, I mentioned the researcher out of Manitoba who's done a lot of work. It's actually been done throughout Canada and around the world. She gave us permission to adapt some of the work that she did into what we refer to as our age-appropriate classroom education guidance. And again, unfortunately, with the screen share, I can't quite pull that up for you, but essentially, if you do want to click on the link of this food and nutrition literacy progression, we have taken that and adapted it. Again, as I mentioned earlier, just to show at different ages for children, what are some of those benchmarks that make sense for them to know or do in relation to food and nutrition. So a young child might understand that, you know, water is important to quench their thirst, whereas an older student who's involved in sports and activity will understand about the importance of hydration and how they can manage that. So really just that progression of that knowledge and skill piece that makes sense. And so this classroom education guidance document, it will be posted on our website coming soon as well. It may be more in depth than a lot of folks want or need, but it's there for reference. And then just to have more of a snapshot, along with our lesson plans that we'll be posting soon, we kind of condensed some of that information down into a teacher backgrounder, which really encompasses a lot of what I'm speaking about today as well. So more just a quick at a glance information on, you know, things to keep in mind when doing childhood nutrition education. But just again, wanting to let you know that that background information will be available to you should you want to dig a little deeper into it.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to that. I think that this progression is really helpful if there is something you've been using in the past with your students that you want to know whether or not this would fit for the right age group or the right topic. You can use this as that reference guide as well. So not just like the science behind it, but also moving forward, if something came up or say you're at a conference, someone shares this really great idea, you can always look back and use this progression to know whether or not that would be a good topic for your age group that you wanting to use it with as well.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Heather. Thanks for that reminder. That's perfect. Good. Okay. And then a little bit more about our process. So I'll be pulling up a sample here and actually I won't, but I will let you know that how we developed our lesson plans and is that we have what we call a guide for educators, which includes, we show which of the curriculum outcomes that we meet, including the cusps, and we identify those very clearly. So at a glance, you can see which of those are covered. And I would say for most of our K-6 lesson plans, we're covering the majority of our cusps, and then there's a few that maybe we haven't quite met yet, and then, you know, that will be something as we add to our repository of lesson plans in the future. And again, that came about, I just really want to reiterate that the document that I spoke of, that sort of that classroom education guidance document, and Heather was saying that could be used as a reference. So that is that food literacy progression framework. And so it's key benchmarks for children of different ages. So we looked at that, and then we looked at the curriculum for the different grades, and we sort of mapped out how do those two overlap and support one another. And then we developed the lesson plans and the activities that met your curriculum outcomes, but as well incorporated that lens of what are those food literacy benchmarks for children of different ages. So we really tried to tie those pieces together along with all those other considerations that I shared sort of on that mapping slide a couple slides back. So our lesson plans have, we let you know which outcomes we're covering. We provide some background information on the topic for those particular outcomes. And then we, provide a little bit more in depth for folks that want that. We did try to keep it as just enough information, so not too much, but links for more information should you want or require that. We have some information on where appropriate books that might align with those curriculum outcomes and support all those different guidance pieces. And then in terms of what we call the student-facing materials, we've got different activities and worksheets that go along with the lesson. In some cases, there's ready-to-use slide decks with speaker notes and reflective questions. So essentially what you'll see is that there's a document that's a few pages that has, again, outlines your outcomes, gives all the background information, the materials that you need, about how long the lesson will take, and then as well as all those different student worksheets or activities. And then there would be where we have the slide decks will be a separate document that you can just take those slide decks and use them yourself to deliver the lesson, and it does have those speaker notes to go with it. So we're hoping it's an easy to use, accessible package of information that you can just take and run with to deliver the curriculum. And again, this is for each of kindergarten through grade 9. Okay, so again, I won't try to open up these websites, but we've Heather put some nice screenshots in here for us. So I do want to just back up and mention that when we did our pilot this past fall, we used a little bit of a different website. It's called Together for Health, and it's what AHS uses for community engagement. So there's it's a way for us to hopefully hear from Albertans on topics of interest. So what we did when we had what we called our pilot lesson plans, we put them on this Together for Health website, and I would really encourage you all to, again, if you can search that up, and if you're interested, you can register to receive updates for projects of interest. So this screenshot on the right-hand side, you'll see it's called Teaching Food and Nutrition. So that was where we posted our pilot versions of the lesson plans, made them accessible for teachers across the province, tried to share out the information, and then had surveys to gather feedback on them. And then we used that feedback to develop our final versions. In coming up this coming fall, we're going to be having pilot versions of some work for at the high school level. So again, if that's of interest for you or your colleagues, would love for you to sign up so we make sure that you get that information. As well, are working with the team over at the Body Image Research Lab. They will soon have available some body image lessons for junior high, and they'll use this same forum to pilot those lesson plans. So it's a great place for you to go to and just get those updates and be able to engage in those pilots if you're interested in that. And then back over here on the left bottom, that's that website that I was hoping to show you at the beginning, our School Healthy Eating at School website. And that's where you'll find all our final versions of all our materials. So again, that's where you'll find our kindergarten through grade 9 in the next few weeks, and we'll let Paul know as soon as those are posted. And then again, all those other pieces I mentioned. We have Healthy Eating at School, which is specific to school. And then if you just go back a layer on that website, you can find anything about that we offer through nutrition services that's publicly available that I mentioned at the beginning here. And then this bottom right-hand side is our partners that I mentioned. So our Healthier Together Schools team that again has those pieces on mental health and sexual health and newsletters and for families and all those different pieces. So a few different places to navigate to, but ultimately for our final school resources, it's this Healthy Eating at School that we'll hope that you can check out and engage with. Okay, so I'm just going to pause now. Just to let you know, for the rest of my time, I'm going to talk a little bit about our healthy relationship with food resources, talk a little bit about the language piece and how our lessons talk about food, and then how we can work together. But before I do that, I just want to pause and see if there's any questions or comments so far.
The only thing I just wanted to add into that, Danielle, and again, it's so good for me to go back through this. I was really struggling with some some philosophical differences between some teachers that I've worked with in the past with regards to using food as like rewards in class. And when I brought that up to Heather and Danielle, they're like, oh, we have a resource for that. You can just print this out and pass it along. So they really have done an incredible depth when they go through this. So there are stuff not just for our teaching, but to support us with some of our other things that are going on as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, Paul, for sure. So with the healthy relationship with food, if we might, I might just take a minute and just see, for those of you on the call here joining, when you hear the term healthy relationship with food, if you're comfortable coming off mute, or again, posting in the chat, does anyone have any thoughts on when you hear, what does healthy relationship with food kind of mean to you when you hear that term? And I'm actually not seeing the chat, so if there is anything in the chat, if you could share that, Paul or Heather. But yeah, go ahead if you wanted to share, Nicole.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
It's a touchy kind of topic. Personally, too, it's hard because our bodies react to food so differently, and then translating it now into the nutritional lessons in the schools, it's very sensitive. And we have a very ethnical group, like diverse group. So I love the idea of that neutral and what's available to the kiddos, but it's a struggle because that's all that is available, right? So directing them in a way that is positive but also supportive is a tricky balance. So I'm really excited to see the lesson plans and it laid out. So I appreciate that part.
Thanks, Nicole. And I think you just articulated that so well, because again, it's, and I know as teachers, you navigate this all the time in so many different ways. So again, it's, you know, kind of providing, again, those skills and knowledge pieces. And again, all those other acknowledgements of what food is available to kids and what other considerations come into play for, again, you know, what they're bringing for lunch and what they might share in the different activities. So yeah, that's a really great observation. Thank you. Anyone else?
I was just going to add the notion of healthy eating for me, I guess, as I look around, is making choices to support what you need at that time. And the other piece of that would be like avoiding the extremes, you know. So like as a vegetarian, I'm going to eat meat from time to time, you know, like not allowing food to become dogmatic, I guess. And also to keep the emotional side of things. Like I don't want to just eat something because I want it. Like there's some kind of choice behind that.
Great, thanks, Paul. Yeah, no, for sure. And so I'll just share. Sorry, I'll just come back. So really great observations. And so I think with when we talk about a healthy relationship with food, again, it's different for everyone. It's multifactorial. And again, it's, you know, thinking about so many different considerations. And also food is very personal, food is cultural, food is traditional, and then food nourishes us. And so there's all those different pieces. So it really is complex. And so when we, and again, if you go to our healthy relationship with food webpage, there's so much information there. We've got a whole webinar video series if you want to dig deep into it with case studies. We've got a handout on how teachers can support a healthy relationship with food and some of that language piece. Really, when we think about healthy relationship with food, we talk about the enjoyment and the positive aspects of eating, because again, you know, meal times and shared meals is such an important part of food and nourishment. We come back to that neutral language piece. So again, it's we want to learn about food, and we all want to know what nourishes us. But again, doing that in a way where it's as I mentioned, that we're calling an apple and a cookie, and not just presenting it in that very sort of objective way, and then giving that context to it of, this is what fruits and vegetables and grains and proteins do for our body to nourish us, and then what things do we enjoy culturally and with our families, and how do we come together around food. The other piece, and again, this could be a whole session in and of itself, is just the roles around food and eating. And this may come back to one of the earlier comments about kind of, navigating what's going on in schools. And so how we really try to present it is that everyone who's involved with food and nourishment in a school setting has a little bit of a different role. And so students and their families, their role is in what they pack in lunches and send to school. And that is dependent on, again, their family's values and what their family has available to them to send in those lunches and their food traditions. And so knowing that students are bringing food based on those different considerations. And then the schools, if they're involved in food provision, that's a little different. If schools are providing lunches or snacks or operate a canteen or concession, then they may be operating under a little bit more of a guidance around offering choices that again will be nourishing the kids at school. Schools also, their role is also to know when meal times are available. So when are lunch times, and when might snacks be available? How do kids have access to water throughout the day? So kind of setting out the where and the when of eating, where are meals eaten and consumed. So that's sort of under the school's purview. And then and then ultimately the students, they know what food is, they have the food available, either that they packed from home or if they're accessing food from the school. And then really we are, when we work even with families from a young age, or again in messaging to parents of school age children, they're choosing from the foods that are available to them, hopefully being encouraged to follow their cues of hunger and fullness, and and choose a variety of foods from what's available to them. So thinking about the different roles of the student, the family, the school is sometimes really helpful in kind of navigating, kind of the whole piece in hopefully helping support kids in that healthy relationship with food, and getting the food to nourish them. And again, just the really just, encouraging children to, I think, ultimately, we talk about encouraging a variety of food from what's available to them, and sort of that piece on looking at sharing food together and really honoring lots of different food traditions, and we really do focus a lot on that shared experience of food too. So kind of all those different pieces come together in what we would describe very broadly as a healthy relationship with food. So, and like I said, there's lots more resources on that on our Healthy Relationship with Food webpage. So that's just a teaser for it. And then I guess things in terms of things that maybe that we think about in terms of things that may not support the development of a healthy relationship with food. So I kind of mentioned, we really don't want to be assigning judgment to food. So kind of that good food or bad food. It comes back to, here's the food, this is what it does for our body, and this is the type of food that it is. And really, the other piece too is really just helping kids to along, with their parents, just to sort of think about, and I think you may have maybe kind of inferred a little bit about this, what does my body need? What am I hungry for? Am I full now? Kind of paying attention to your body and what you need, again, for that energy, growth, activity, all the different pieces. And so just really being mindful, I think, of that as well, kind of in that more social setting within the school for anyone who's involved in maybe supervising meal times and whatnot. And so kind of just really thinking about what are those supportive things that I can do to help children to eat well and have that relationship with food that helps them to really move forward in a really positive way about developing their own healthy eating pattern. So in terms of more resources on that, again, as I mentioned, we do have a webpage on that with different videos, different podcasts, a nice 2-page handout that kind of summarizes it. And it gives some examples about what one of the things you spoke to earlier too, Paul, about, we really try to, I guess, encourage not using food as a reward, for example. And again, here's the food that's available. Here's some time to eat and enjoy food together. Those types of things, and just kind of setting up as much as possible, setting up a nice environment for eating together, and providing the time to eat, all those different pieces. So lots of information there. And it also does include those, again, some examples of neutral language. So again, just very quick examples again. So really thinking about, in your descriptions of food, in your teaching, again, just really coming back to the basic of describing what that food is. So either exactly the food, again, chicken, beef, fish, broccoli, whatever it is, or again, the nutrient that it provides, so protein, carbohydrate, for the older kids, and just speaking about it very, and kind of in a plain language way of, just a very descriptive way without kind of assigning any value or judgment to it. And then, as I mentioned, we do have a really nice video series if you want to do some more, PD on your own. You can access those, and there's about 3 20-minute sessions that you can take. And we do know of some schools that are sort of watching those together in district PD days and then reflecting on them as well, which is great. We also have a resource on, if you're wondering, oh, will this particular book or video that I've used in the past, does it support that healthy relationship with food? We have this tips for choosing classroom resources, and it's a bit of a checklist of just things to be mindful of. Again, the language used. Does it bring in any weight bias, or does it talk about food in that judgmental way, or does it imply sort of pressure to eat certain prescriptive amounts? And so it can kind of walk you through selecting your classroom resources to align with this type of guidance. So I encourage you to check out that page for those resources.
Danielle, can I just add a quick story?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So just to kind of bring this down to why I was so excited to bring these two ladies on, I have a pretty strict policy in my class, my math class, that's like, I don't want sugary drinks in there. And when I was listening to Danielle and Heather, I was like, I think my languaging has been off, because the languaging has shifted since I did my degree. It's shifted kind of in the last 4 or 5 years quite a bit. And I was like, can I do that? Can I tell kids they can't bring drinks in? And when they were talking about these roles, the recommendation was to just put something up that says, we're building brains and brains need water. So again, just taking that positive side, this is the fact, this is what we need to do here. So we're going to help you make that choice without the guilt or the shame about, well, you brought your 5th boba tea in this week. Right. So I just wanted to share that, because it's these little changes that I'm already seeing are making a big difference.
Thanks, Paul. That's such a great example. Again, and it's just sort of that subtle shift, right? So that the end result is this hopefully the same, but it's just a shift of how you frame it or present it. So that's a great example. Okay, so now just to really get into what I'm so excited to share with you is that, again, based on all that work that I described earlier and all the input from teachers across the province and all the other folks we worked with, very soon, hopefully within the next few weeks, we will have posted on our Healthy Eating at School website a series of kindergarten through grade 9 lesson plans that incorporate all those different pieces that I've spoken about. And again, we will share that the communication about that through the networks. And we're doing what we kind of call a soft launch, getting them posted here kind of in the spring, knowing that some folks might still use them now in May and June, and then we'll do a bigger promotion of them in the fall for the new school year. So really hope you can share the word about those once we get that information out to you that they've been posted. And then as we've been finalizing our kindergarten to grade 9 lesson plans, we've got another team working on looking at high school. So we've been taking a look at COM and phys ed and foods. And then of course we were made aware of the fact that there is some new draft curriculum coming out, which is kind of a nice timing. And so what we'll be taking a look at the new draft curriculum when it's available, and hopefully then being able to align what we're doing with that. But what we have landed on is that we we will develop something that can be used at a high school level around meal planning. Just, you know, surmising that likely that will be useful at some point in the high school experience, whether it's again in some of those core courses or some of the optional courses. And so meal planning in the context of a high school age student. So it gets introduced in the curriculum at a younger grade, but what does that mean as the youth are moving into sort of independent meal planning and that. So that's what we'll be piloting on that teaching food and nutrition page that I highlighted for you earlier. So if you're interested in piloting that, again, encourage you to sign up to subscribe to that page and hear about it. And then knowing that the curriculum is being, a new curriculum is being drafted and piloted coming up, we're also just going to work on just a bit of a more in-depth teacher background or framed around the high school context that again hopefully gives some nuggets that you know, as you're working with a new draft curriculum for high school, that it can give you some ideas to work with as you're developing lesson plans. And then we'll sort of be in the background once we know that draft curriculum becomes finalized, that then we would come in and if there's interest, provide some more supports in terms of actual lesson plans, similar to what we did for kindergarten through grade 9. So that's what we've got in the works over the next few months here. And so if we've got a few minutes, that's everything that I formally wanted to share, but really just wanted to take the time to find out from you, you know, what questions do you have, first of all, and then what else would be helpful to you? How do you want to hear from us? Just kind of open it up to what we can bring back to our team in terms of what would be supportive for you. But I'm going to pause and see if Heather or Paul want to add anything, or if there's any questions from anyone.
The only thing I wanted to add is I understand that the language can be really tricky, and I know we've kind of had this discussion already with Paul, as we'd mentioned, but the language is really to encourage making choices around, or is it to encourage using language around food so that we can make lots of different choices moving ahead, you know, as we go throughout life. If you choose to have some cake with your birthday, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Enjoy it. It shouldn't be like, oh, I had cake yesterday, so now I have to make sure I get my run in tomorrow. Even though we say some of these comments or these things maybe jokingly, or because when I go for a run, oh, I know it makes me feel really good. It also comes across as that we need to like earn food. We need to or punish ourselves over food. And so it's actually never about the food, but the relationship that it creates with our mental health, and that like that connection with mental health around food or for food. So although it can sound a little tricky, because of course we want to encourage students to make good food choices that are going to help them grow and be healthy, just staying on that positive route, and knowing that the impact on our mental health when we start labeling foods, that's kind of what it's about. So I don't know if that was helpful at all.
Thanks, Heather.
Yeah.
I'm just
It's
looking at the
tricky.
chat here. So thanks everyone. And I just noticed there was the one question in the chat about is it appropriate to state more nutritional food and less nutritional food? And so I think how we have framed it in our lesson plans is again just so again at the grade level that it kind of matches the curriculum and whatnot. We would frame it around, you know, again, we might look at kind of the different groupings of food being, you know, vegetables and fruits and whole grains and protein foods. And then we would talk about, you know, these are the nutrients that these foods provide and what those different foods do for our bodies. So again, just kind of bringing it back to what nutrients and nourishment those foods provide, and just giving those examples of those foods and how they can fit into the meal planning is how we would frame that in our lessons. I don't know, Heather, if you wanted to add anything to that particular kind of just that last question in the chat there.
I think it depends the context. Like, I don't know,
Yeah,
Nicole, if
yeah.
you're able to come off mute and just, I know like everybody really wants to say, for your lunch, we want to try and include nutritious food. Um, that would be fine. I guess just like, can you put it into context in how you might want to use that comparative language?
Okay, so I teach K-8, but then I'm also a grade 8 math science teacher. So I hear this and I struggle in the classroom because of at lunch and recess, um, and of course grade 8s. So it's just learning the language and how to shift their kind of notion about kind of picking on somebody or that kind of stuff. And in the past, I would say, well, yeah, that's all good, but some foods are more nutritional than others. And to have a balance, that's totally fine. So just again, like Paul said, is just what are the languages that are appropriate and what the direction that I should take nowadays.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, part of, I can maybe start off and then you can jump in again here, Heather, kind of. So again, even if it's just sort of like, yeah, I think part of it is kind of that back to that thinking about the roles, family's role, students' role, school's role. And then if we are sort of having a lesson where it is that menu planning or meal planning piece, again, I think it's sort of one of our key principles always, and this hasn't changed over the years, is that variety of food. And I think just again, letting students know that they, when they are doing that menu planning, it is around those main groupings of food, and having that variety of food, I think is kind of a big piece there. And then knowing that there are, that there are foods that maybe aren't sort of shown or reflected on. I mean, all of our materials are framed around Canada's food guide. There are foods that aren't reflected on there, and they may play a role in our diet as well for again, for that enjoyment, or for favorite cultural or traditional foods or whatnot. And then the bulk of our meal planning will be done around those key pieces that are going to provide us with the most nourishment. And again, Heather, I'll let you jump in to add.
Yeah, I like what I'm hearing from your example, Nicole, is in the lunchroom and hearing other kids talk about each other's lunches and that sort of thing. Um, it's okay to have a variety of foods, right? Whatever it is, nutritional, non-nutritional, a variety of foods fits for everybody. What I would encourage is just not talking about other foods that people choose. It's more about like, I like this TV show, you like that TV show. One is not right, one is not wrong. And I think that's where I would steer a discussion, is more around not making comments about other people's lunches and other people's foods. Everybody makes different choices, and that's okay. I would probably not look to label the food at all and steer the conversation away from making conversations about other people's foods. And it's, I have young kids, and the same thing. I got one kid who's like super picky. And so if, someone takes out food that she doesn't like, immediately it's like, oh, that's disgusting. Well, no, actually, because other people make food choices that they enjoy, and that's okay. So we actually don't talk about other people's food choices. And that's some of the messaging that I would maybe bring back to the classroom as well, is that, whether it's, picking on someone or talking about somebody's food choices or clothing choices, or, uh, you know, preferences for TV show, like whatever it is, we're just trying to take that piece away, and food is no different.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. And I think too, a lot of what we talk about in again, some of those resources on healthy relationship with food is, kind of the where possible, where possible, in the school setting, that it's sort of again that the meal times are kind of that social time, and so having kind of those kind of those pleasant mealtime conversations, like everyone enjoy whatever food they have and that they've brought that's available to them that they enjoy. And then the conversation is about other things, just like, at the family dinner table, we would encourage that again, here's the food that's available for the family. Everyone chooses what's available, eats according to their cues of hunger and fullness. And we have conversations about other things. It might be, oh, and it might be about the food. It might be, oh, we're having grandma's favorite casserole or whatever tonight. But, again, more that kind of pleasant mealtime conversation, just because, again, those meal times, are really such a big piece of it. And we do want to encourage that enjoyment of meal times and kind of take away some of that pressure, I guess, at meal times that may occur.
Even just on like a supervision role, I used to work years ago. I worked with a teacher who we always do lunch and supervision in our grade 1 to grade 9. And there was an individual who would always tell kids to eat something before they ate something else, right? Or you don't eat that yet. Your parents will be upset. Eat your vegetables before you eat the cookie, right? So even those little things where we're almost imposing choice on kids, what I'm starting to see is that it kind of takes that healthy relationship away from them. Am I right in that?
Yeah, you are. And again, you know what? And it's hard, right? Because again, everything is done. I think you said at the beginning, Paul, everything is done with the best of intentions. And I really want to make sure that it truly is. Because we all want the kids in our care to be healthy and well nourished. But again, for that example that you gave, Paul, it kind of comes back to everyone's different role. So child has a lunch, it has this amount of, again, fruit, vegetable, protein, grain, a cookie, whatever. And then we sort of leave it to the child to determine what and how much, and they're taking that food at the meal times that are laid out and kind of what's available. And so, to me, I'm always, I think what helps me frame that is whose role is it? And am I overtaking someone else's role? I guess. So, if that's helpful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The one other area, if we still have a couple minutes, if you're game,
Sure.
is
Yeah.
just to kind of maybe do a deeper dive in how we can approach foods. I know foods that aren't on the Canada Food Guide. I've been talking to some other colleagues prior to this to try and get more of a lens, and similar to what Nicole was saying. I think especially as physical educators, we're always trying to move kids away from those types of foods. And the more I hear you guys talk, the more it starts to make sense to me. But could we just maybe spend a couple minutes just talking how we can approach those? Because we know from an academic level that like those foods aren't supporting kids to be active or to learn and things like that.
Yeah.
Is that a fair question?
Oh, it's a fair question, and
Okay,
so
good.
definitely, yeah. No, it's a complex and tough question, but a fair question. So, and I think again, we're kind of all learning together on this too, right? And so again, I think it comes back to, again, in the education piece, it's that again, when it's at the right stage of cognitive development and all that we let kids know what is nourishing your body. So we kind of cover that off. Here's what nourishes your body. But then we also let them know that there's also lots of other foods out there that will be available in different ways. And so again, it's kind of just saying, kind of the idea that these are the foods that will nourish you. These are sort of the, when we get into the little bit older grades, we do talk about the, with the Canada's Food Guide, it talks about proportions of food that help to support you. So again, that, if we're able, that lots of our foods are coming from vegetables and fruits, and then some of our foods are protein, some are whole grains, but there's lots of other foods out there as well. And those foods can have a place. And again, that will depend on what you and your family choose. Some of those foods that aren't on the food guide are simply flavorings and herbs and spices, and those add enjoyment to our food. And sometimes we're having a favorite cultural food that might be a dessert or something, and that provides that piece on kind of honoring our family's food traditions and memories and cultures, and that's part of our meal. And then again, we think about we come back to, well, we also want to be mindful though of eating according to our cues of hunger and fullness, so we keep that in mind. And how do we include those? And then there will just be times where it's that thinking about what is done on kind of that day-to-day basis. And then there's going to be certain events or occasions in our life where there will be some of those foods that are outside of the food guide, and they're consumed for lots of different reasons. And that's okay, but it's thinking about what are we doing mostly on our day-to-day, and making sure that we're trying to, on a regular basis, include those foods that nourish us. I'm going to pass it to Heather now too, because I know she's always got lots of great practical tips here. So I'll bring you in, Heather. And you might be on mute if you're speaking, Heather, or coughing, possibly. If you're...
No, sorry, it just was
Yeah.
just getting myself together. Yeah, I think like you just said, it's just really complex, and one thing I was thinking of is what we've done in the past for some of our public health nurses is we've asked them to compile some scenarios for us to give examples to. So if you find there's examples that come up in the work that you do that we could write some examples for, we could totally do that.
I will. The other thing that I do want to, and I'm just going to pull it up here in case I have a quick minute to share with you, is that the other resource that's really helpful, and again, we've used it in our lesson plan, is that you may be familiar with this, but Health Canada also recently released a food guide, a toolkit for educators, and they actually have a really some really great information about that as well, around, you know, culture and food traditions. And the other thing that we'll share with you after, Paul, because I know we're almost out of time here today, is that our colleagues over in British Columbia, I'm thinking of that resource, Heather, answers to common questions the students might pose about food. So I think that would be a great one for you to share with the group, Paul. And I know we're at 5 o'clock here. I don't want to keep everyone, but it kind of just lays out, it lays out that. And so if I can find it here quickly, I will just quickly screen share it, but we can certainly pass that along to its answers to common questions about food. Oh, here we go. I found it actually. I'm going to actually quickly screen share it if I can, because I think it might answer that question, and I know that is top of mind for many of you. So let me just do a quick screen share, and it's just going to articulate it better than I would. So you should be seeing now on your screen suggested answers to common food and nutrition questions. Oh, I have to click share again. There we go.
There we go.
You should see it there now. So this is a nice resource, and it kind of, I think, our colleagues in BC did similar to what Heather just offered. So when when a student tells you my, grandma or whoever says this, how can I respond? So if, someone says this food is bad for you, kind of what Heather was saying, people eat foods for different reasons, that piece. If someone comments on someone else's food as being, yucky or whatnot, how do we respond to that? Why can't we have pop at school? Some of those, this is just a really nice resource. And so, yeah, I think that might give you some of that information. And then I guess, ultimately when it's, again, those foods outside of Canada's food guide, I think it really does come back to the whole, just really trying to, again, kind of exactly what you did, Paul, where you kind of said, okay, we're focusing on water. So it's not taking that positive spin on this is what we're focusing on. We're not going to take away from those other foods, but we do want to, this is where we want to focus. We want to have variety, and it's kind of just constantly trying to reframe it for ourselves and the students as to this is where we want to focus, but not attach that judgment to those outside of Canada's food guide foods, I guess.
No, that's brilliantly put, because after my first conversation with this team, I kind of hung up, and for the next couple of days I was like, oh crap, I've got to rethink things. But we still have a place with these roles to provide some of that guidance.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
just without the baggage that it typically comes with that. Well, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, so this is I really like this work that Health Canada has done. So again, it's sort of just looking at some of those pieces. How do we create that supportive environment? you know, and here, actually, sorry, this is the one I really wanted to share specifically to your question, Paul, is how do we address highly processed foods? So this is, so again, if students are bringing up those examples in an activity that you're doing, I think this wording is really hopefully helpful. And again, if it isn't, let us know. But again, it's sort of just refocusing or reframing, very similar to what you had done in your classroom. So just say, you know, thank you for mentioning such and such. What else can you add to, you know, what other food might you enjoy? Or is there something, another example? So acknowledging and then reframing, I think, is the suggestion that's being provided here. So, yeah.
The only other thing I want to add to that is the resource about words matter. I have it here and I'm just popping it into some of our notes, but it's almost like an hour worth of stuff. And I've been through a couple of them and they're really good. They're really
oh, you've
good.
got through them. That's great. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. And actually, now that I've got my screen sharing, how I hope to have it earlier. So this is that healthy relationship with food webpage that I mentioned. And so again, that's how we describe a healthy relationship with food. That's that. This is the resource that just shows you some examples of neutral language. So again, water keeps you hydrated rather than saying don't drink juice. So kind of exactly your example, Paul. So that's kind of just a nice something that you can take a look at and share with others if you think it would be of interest. And then, oops, just gonna move this out of the way.
Is the thing on drinks in there as well? Because you had a really good resource on.
Not quite sure which one you're thinking of, Paul.
There was one on, or maybe it was the one on caffeine or different kinds of drinks.
We do, and again, I feel like I'm always saying it's coming soon, but we do have a new resource on drinks, drinks for children, and it does speak to caffeine because we do certainly acknowledge that there's a lot of caffeine maybe being consumed in it. It's something that we need to be mindful of. So, and we do if anyone is has a real interest in that area or is just teaching about caffeine, then just reach out to Heather or I directly and we can help you out with that. But yeah, and this is the words mad. This is where you'll find that video series. Again, little sort of 20 to 30 minute segments. It's got some case studies and then some really great podcasts put out by the if you're familiar with the teacher fan club through the Body Image Lab. That's the one I just pulled up, the suggested answers to common questions from students. Yeah, so just really hopefully just lots of information that might be of use to you there. And then we do have a little bit around to just if, you know, because the other piece of this, of course, is families might be struggling with food. So we do have some information on community supports as well at the bottom there. So, but yeah, really encourage you to take a look through this.
Fantastic. Heather, could you just pop both yours and Danielle's emails just in the chat so we have it there? I'll also include it in my wrap up for this.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put just like our public health standard email in there as well.
Yeah, and just so if you just so you know, because sometimes I know we don't like to send emails to kind of generic addresses, but the one Heather will put in the public health nutrition email address that will come to myself or someone on my team, and then we'll filter it out to the best person to respond to your questions. So know that it will get looked at by a real person and answered.
Fantastic. Just before I kind of thank these two incredibly engaged and dedicated people, were there any other last questions before Nicole or Taylor? Any burning questions there, Taylor?
No, I just like to say thank you. And it's the same bit of like, now I got to go through all of this to find what I can. But I've quite appreciated, like, I know I've used your guys' stuff about like food safety and things like that before. And it went over great because, like, especially the one with what I imagine has to be all the pictures from the health inspector.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's
I absolutely love that one, although I think I might have ruined a couple of appetites.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you.
But no, I look forward to going through this.
Yeah. So I always like to do a quick recap because, as I said, I was really excited about this session because It's putting some pieces into what we're doing that as physical educators and wellness teachers, it's hard to find those resources. So just like this, the notion of best practices, that there's little changes that we can make, healthy relationships with foods, that whole sensitivity about like honoring what kids have access to at home and not triggering any guilt or shame based on what they can afford or what their culture eats compared to what else is happening. The different roles that we all play around food and eating, and that although the school likes to take over a lot of that, with food, it might not be our place to focus on some of the other education places and just the wealth of resources that you've been able to share with us. So I just wanted to honor you and just thank you for putting this together. I know that takes time. Heather, even being here not fully healthy, I really appreciate your time and sharing that. Any last comments before we take our break?
I'm just looking, there's just the one question about the lens of up and coming lesson plans. So the ones, the kindergarten through grade 9, those are framed around that, the K-6 wellness curriculum, and then the existing grade 7 to 9 wellness curriculum. And then as we move in, so they are intended, I guess, more for that classroom setting. As we move into high school, we're still kind of sorting out, and that's where we do want to hear from all of you. So one of the ideas we floated is certainly, say for that high school phys ed, is it better like the gym space, like was mentioned in the chat there, short nuggets, or so any ideas that you have for what would help you, please send that along to our email addresses, or tell us right now. Yeah.
Can I just touch base with that?
Yeah, please.
Do we have time? Yeah, so I am very thankful that I do have gym space. I only see them in the gym. So my focus
Okay.
is to incorporate the nutritional piece, but in an active way. So that's what my goal is. So if more resources, visuals, that kind of stuff, directing them to learn with movement, that would be amazing.
Okay, that is great. Perfect. No, that's good. And I really, if I could just sort of encourage, if you're interested in, and again, going to that, Together for Health teaching food and nutrition page I showed, because again, if there's opportunities for you to be engaged in that, we'd love to keep kind of engaged with you. So, and that would be a way to do that. So it's great. But thank you for those ideas that helps as we move into that work, for more of that space.
Yeah, some of the lesson plans for the younger grades, like K-4 even, I think the activity and concepts and things that you're going to teach and do could all be done in a gym space, because not all of them have like a slide deck or something like that, so I think some of them could be transferred into instead of doing this on a piece of paper, let's stand in a circle at the gym and just represent it in a different way. And so I think, I know it's still more work for you to have to try and like figure out how you're going to turn that into a physical education piece, but yeah, I think there's potential in the lesson plans that are there to do them in a way that's physically active. And I personally helped create the grade 1, and I'm thinking already about how like doing food grouping, there was already a sample idea of doing that in a movement activity, and we actually cut it out. So now I'm thinking, oh, I should go back and take another look at it. But anyway, I don't know if that's helpful, but moving forward, we can look at how we might be able to redo some of those with that option.
Yeah, no, that's great, Heather. And like I said, we kind of did try our best to incorporate, because again, that's one of the things we heard from teachers, is that whether it's in the gym or the classroom, students need to move. So, but again, even though we're posting the final kindergarten through grade 9 lessons now, and the pilot is over, we will have an ongoing survey and form for you to provide feedback. So again, yourselves, your colleagues, we always with our resources, we're looking for that quality improvement as we, make changes to them down the road. So love to hear feedback, especially with specific suggestions. So it's great.
Yeah, and I know, just speaking to other generalists, it's those visuals, right? So much of nutrition, either the plastic food, which is great, but those visuals, if there was a repository, we could go, here's 50 vegetables that you could print off, or right? That way teachers could just print it and go instead of going through Google. You know?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, and we do have, again,
Fantastic.
we have some, but not, maybe not quite the depth you're looking for, but we have some of those visuals for sure. So
Awesome.
it's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Heather and Danielle. Thank you so much for taking the time. It does take time out of everyone's days and weeks to do this. So I just, I'm so grateful, and I look forward to posting some of the stuff, slide decks and that I'm sure we'll be able to access and share it with everyone as well.
Great. And thanks for all of you for being here. It's been great chatting with you. Have a good evening.
Here too. We'll talk to you guys later.
Okay. Yeah. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Guys, I'm just going to stop the recording here.